Hey guys, it is currently 5:04 in the morning on March 15th, and today I am starting edit 3 of Letters from Madman, and in this case that is the developmental edit. Before I get into the details of that, the goal is to finish the developmental edit by March 31st, which is a Tuesday. My calendar looks a little messy. It has character birthdays and all of the Letters from Madman stuff on it, but this here is today, and then Tuesday, finish on this Tuesday. So that's the game plan, but we'll see how things go. Very recently, my thumb and my wrists have been very testy. Neither of them are in a brace right now, because I've had them in a brace for the last 5 hours, so they are currently on break. But this one is very, very tender and sore through here, and so is this one, as well as up through the back of my hand and up through my thumb. And also my eczema hates my braces, and I have a breakout here on my thumb, so that's great. But that will slow down progress, that will slow down my notes, but I'm gonna keep pushing through because we're still aiming for that August 2nd release date at the moment. So I have some notes over here, and we're going to go through those. With developmental editing, we're looking at something a bit different than copy editing, which is what I freelance, because with copy editing, I'm generally doing grammar, spelling, punctuation, stuff like that, and then also repetition of information. So if you list the same thing twice in one paragraph, I'm going to highlight that and say that, you know, this is the same thing, just said in a different way. We learned that a page ago, we learned that 3 paragraphs ago, stuff like that. But with developmental editing, in this sense, we're looking at the bigger picture. We're looking at the big picture of things, we're looking at the timeline, we're looking at the pace, we're looking at the structure of the story. So I'm not going to worry too much about grammar and spelling details. If I come across them, I'm going to fix them, that's whatever, but I'm not going to focus too much on making sure I pick out all of the, incorrect comma placements, so I'm not going to go out of my way to go make sure that's where a comma should be. Same with spelling and punctuation and grammar in general. I'm not going to focus on that this edit, which is different than what I normally do, but I want to make sure that I split it up to give as much of my attention that I possibly can to developmental structure things. So, structure is the main thing here. Sequencing, does it begin in the right place? Does it end in the right place? Are parts the appropriate length? Is this scene way too short? Is this scene way too long? Does anything need to be reordered from the way it is right now? Which I already know shouldn't be it, but the possibility that they need to be cut is still there, and the possibility, the definite, actually, thing that things need to be added to the story, that's 100% there. There are chapters I haven't written, there are scenes I haven't written, things need to be added, and that's in the structure. Narrative, inconsistencies in the plot, I will be looking at that. Plot lines that were not resolved, or plot lines that should be cut from the story because they don't add anything important. And anything that doesn't seem too realistic should also be removed from my story. I personally don't write fantasy or science fiction or anything like that. All of my books, except for my zombie books, are set in our world as it is. And this book is set in the mid-2000s, I think. I think it's 2016, but I'm not 100% sure. Because I'm not looking at it right now. I have a different book open here on my tablet. So I need to make sure that things make sense in the context of 2016 or whichever year it is set in, because I tend to write fiction that is set in our current world. I prefer that. Language, are there any weird wordings in sentences that crop up repeatedly throughout the text? Those will need to be fixed if there are. There was one word in there it's either quelch or quelch, but I think it's quelch, but that's just a misspelling of squelch or squelch, whichever it is, which I didn't know, because you always see that as a squelching sound in movies and TV shows on the captions, but it means the same thing as quell, so I corrected that because I'm saying it wrong. Is there too much or too little description? I'll be looking at that. Passive voice, I'll sort of be looking for that, but honestly, I've used passive voice a few times. I don't use it often. It has a place. It has a situation it should be used in sometimes. It has situations that can work in. It's not one of those things that you have to eliminate from your writing 100% of the time. Same thing with adverbs. People are scared to use them because old writers say that to brand new writers, and it turns off people from them and makes them worry about it, and they're like, oh, you have too many adverbs here. But you know who generally doesn't care? Readers. Don't use an adverb every sentence. Don't use 3 of them in one sentence, but you can use them. Same with passive voice. If it fits the situation, you can use passive voice as well. So I will be looking for it, I will see if it fits the situation, and if it does not, I will change it. That sort of thing. Dialogue. This suggests looking for filler words like so on and so forth, and I generally do keep those to a very, very slight minimum. That's a good thing to keep in mind. Like if a person stutters in the book, you don't want to write out every single stutter. You want to give the impression of a stutter and let the reader take away that it's a stutter, that sort of thing, or even just say he stuttered at the end. Are the characters' voices consistent? That's something I'll be looking for as well. If, like, I don't have an example from Letters from Madman, but like in Beau's book or series, he never says gonna, wanna, things like that. He generally doesn't say yeah or yep, he says yes. And in the first 2 books especially, he does say gonna, wanna, yeah, yep, but he doesn't at all later on because that's who he evolved to be. But he's supposed to be like that the whole time. So when I edit those books, those will be corrected in his dialogue to make him consistent. Characters. Are there any underdeveloped or overdeveloped characters in regards to what their role is in the story? If they are a side character that you see once, you don't need to know their whole backstory. So if that was a situation that arose, I would remove it. If Hilo, Taki, or let's say Andrew, because he's not a main character, but he's very secondary, he's very close to the plot. If we didn't know absolutely anything about them, I would need to develop them more. I don't want them to be one-dimensional. Making the story the best it could be is an important one there. That's very, very, very important in this case. Developmental edit, for me, is the first thing that's absolutely important in this edit, because this edit sets up the base for the rest of the edits, which focus more heavily on grammar, the way sentences sound, the way everything fits together, the cohesiveness of it, but this one focuses specifically on the structure, the characters, the development, the plot lines, making sure everything fits together enough that the rest of the stuff falls in line very well and that readers will find it interesting. So, hooray for all of that. I still have some other things that I'm doing today, but I wanted to make sure that I got this part of the video filmed, because I only like to film when I'm the only one awake. So, intro to developmental editing here. I'm not a professional developmental editor. I don't freelance that. This is actually the first time I'm considering when I'm doing a developmental edit, but everything that I listed there was stuff from a website. I will link that website down below. I didn't go through everything. I chose not to say certain parts because they were mostly parts that I personally wouldn't focus on. But I will link the website that I got that information from down below. There are many websites out there about developmental editing and finding the right developmental editor and stuff like that. But this is the first time I'm generally calling it that, so we'll see how things go. So the hope for this video is to keep the rest of the segment short enough that it can all be one video without it being overbearingly long. I had to film this clip separated from all of the others because I ran out of recording space like 3 times on my iPad, so I don't know 100% how long this video will be at the moment, but the goal is to give you an update tomorrow about how today went, an update halfway through about where progress is, and an update at the very end about how the edit went. And hopefully that will all be in this video, but if it ends up not being in this video, I'll do an outro at some point in one of the other clips, but sticking to my guns here and hoping that it all fits in one video without it being overly long, but we'll see. But that is all that I have for this very moment. I'm going to get back to working on things outside of Letters from Madman, and I will get around to Madman later on in the day, and then I will see you tomorrow with an update. Hey guys, it is currently 2:18 in the morning on March 16th, and we're going to go ahead and talk about progress that I made on the developmental edits of Letters from a Madman yesterday. I edited 2 chapters. That's primarily what I need to edit every day, except for one of those days I need to edit at least 3 chapters to finish it by the end of this month. But yesterday I edited the first 2 chapters, and that was 2,308 words. I made 22 changes, and again, I'm not focusing super deep on like the sentence corrections that I do during copy edits, but I am focusing on a couple grammar errors here and there, or just an incorrect word if I notice them, because if I notice them I want to make sure that I get them now so I don't accidentally skim over them later. I'm adding dates to every chapter rather than only the chapters where they switch. So it was initially like the first 3 chapters so far all take place on Monday, February 22nd, but I only had Monday listed on chapter 1. So now chapters 2 and 3 also have the dates listed at the top, so that way if you don't know what date it is, you don't have to scroll or flip, depending on, you know, what device you're reading it on or what paperback you're reading it in. You don't have to flip all the way back to the first one to remember what day it is, if you're into that. Some people pay more attention to dates than other people do, in my experience. But 22 corrections so far. A couple things have been plot related at the moment. I made sure to add that Hilo and Taki have an office in the police station and not just desks pushed together in a central bay area like some police stations. They have a physical office. That wasn't in there initially until like several chapters in. This time it's in chapter 2 because that's when they go to the station. There's now a new line in there of Hilo also dropping off Emma, Taki's daughter, at school on their way to work, because otherwise she was just at the house and there was no further instructions there on if she got into on a bus or if she walks to school or what, and I just want to make sure that didn't feel open-ended. So that's another plot-related thing that's been added. And I haven't edited chapter 3 yet, but I already know some things that are going to need to be fixed in there, because chapter 3 is when they go down to the lab to look at fingerprinting stuff. And it needs to be a bit more clear as to why they decide to go down there and look at it, but then decide not to pull the prints themselves. Because if it's not clear, it seems like I put it in there, decided something else, and then left it in there. So that needs to be woven better. I know that for certain, but that's something that I will worry about today, at some point. But I'm making good progress. I'm happy with what I've done so far. I've taken 526 words in notes on the first 2 chapters of the order of things and how things are going and so on and so forth. And overall progress is good, so that's something. Again, the plan is to finish it on the 31st, so I will see you guys on, let's say, the 23rd with an update on how this has been going. But for now, I'd like to take a shower and then get back to normal writing and then come back around to Letters from Madman later on today. So I will see you on the 23rd with an update on how things went in the last week, give or take. Hopefully things go well. Fingers crossed. Hey guys, it is currently 8:54 in the morning on March 24th. I haven't done any editing on Letters from Madman today, so I'm going to update you on progress as of the 23rd, which I meant to record this video yesterday, so it's pretty much the same amount of information. I'm currently up through chapter 8 of Letters from Madman, which is behind where I should be, but I've had a couple hiccups, not related to the book, but just between my hands. I've had a couple terrible eczema flare-ups. They've been god-awful. This hand is all scabbed over here on my wrist, which you can sort of see. That's what that dark splotch is. That's the only part that's scabbed after the flare-up died down a little bit.
So in addition to that, I can't wear my copper compression gloves, so my knuckles are freezing cold and stiff all the time, and there's not much I could do about it. And I can't wear my brace for my thumb because flare up. And I can't wear my wrist braces either because flare up is on both wrists. But hopefully that will die down soon and I'll be able to wear my braces and my gloves and all of that again, but it has interfered with progress. But I'm still coming along okay, which is a plus. So far in the rewrite itself, or the edit itself, sorry, I've made 41 changes so far, but again, I'm not doing super in-depth grammar edits on this one. I'm not worrying about sentence structure, I'm not worrying about that. Most of the changes so far, I've added a couple sentences. I've fixed a few grammar mistakes that I've noticed while I was reading, and I was like, well, I might skip over that next time, so let's just put it in now. And I've added dates to the first 8 chapters-ish. Probably closer to the first 5 chapters, because I think 3 of them probably had dates at the beginning of them. But all of the ones in between that take place on the same day, so initially those dates weren't put in there, but right now they are. I'm taking my developmental notes as well, and those are all lining up nicely and things are going well there. I've written like 1,700 words in notes for it so far, and I'm just typing those because I can't handle handwriting that long. And at the moment, I'm still in progress with my to-do list stuff because I haven't been able to do much handwriting lately. So I'm officially caught up here to where I am in edits, so I'm doing this as I'm editing, and I'll finish it at some point, but things are going okay. I'm behind where I'd like to be, but things are going okay, and in general, that's all that matters. I have time. But that's all I've got for today. I'm planning on getting around to edits later on today, after I sleep, after I get some more writing done, so on and so forth. If things go really well, I'll be editing like 6 chapters today to try and get back up to closer to where I should be. But we'll see how the day goes. We'll see how I feel after I sleep. I've been having a lot of trouble sleeping lately for various reasons. But we'll see how things go. And I will see you guys again for a final update on Edit 3 when it's finished, which, fingers crossed, will be March 31st. So, that is all that I have for today, and I will see you guys, hopefully, at the end of this month with the final results of Edit 3. Hey guys, it is currently 3:27 in the morning on April 23rd, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up Edit 3 of Letters from Madman. This video is being filmed a lot later than I wanted it to be. I just finished the edit yesterday, and I'll get into that in a second, but things took quite some time to get through. Generally my edits don't take forever. This one took over a month. Not of continuous work, obviously. I haven't gone through and counted how many days I actually worked on it, but it was in progress for over a month. And I had skipped several chapters during the rewrite edit, and I had skipped several scenes during the rewrite edit as well, and I still skipped several of those this time as well. Because editing Letters from Madman was a last-minute decision, it wasn't the initial book I was going to publish this year. Book 1 of the Carver Baxter series was the book that I was going to publish this year, but then because I didn't finish book 4 or 5 or 6 in time, this became my plan. And I didn't expect the rewrite edit to be so hefty or so involved, so when I started editing afterwards, it just was so close to when I finished that god-awful rewrite edit. And not that I'm not happy with the outcome of the rewrite edit, but because it took so long, because there were so many new chapters and new scenes and POV changes and scenes switched around and chapters switched around. That's what I mean by god-awful, not that I'm not happy with the way that the edit came out. And with this one, although I normally don't consider an edit complete until I finish everything, I feel like putting those off again until edit 4 is the best decision that I can make
for the quality of this book, and that's what's most important to me. So when it comes to Letters from a Madman, this was the developmental edit, so I was taking notes on it, and there's over 7,000 words in the note document, and obviously the notes aren't complete yet. I still need to write at least 3 chapters and then fill those in on the timeline notes, and I still need to write at least 3 or 4 scenes/scene expansions, and those will go in the timeline notes as well. But that's where we are right now. With what I did add, I added 1,338 words to this edit. I ended up with 41,454 words for this edit, and I made 133 changes. Again, that number is pretty low for a developmental edit, but I haven't made the timeline changes all the way through. I didn't go through and correct grammar. I didn't fix sentence structure the majority of the time. I just did minor changes, that way I could get through it faster and finish the notes faster. I'm doing my best not to focus on grammar during that edit as well. That was the plan. With this one, I found a lot of errors that I needed to change. For one, in chapter 10 of the book, the John Doe case that Hilo and Taki are working in between the Letters from a Madman, in chapter 10, they find out who he is, Michael Sanders. And I forgot about that when I was writing, and I forgot about it when I was doing the rewrite edit. And from there on out, all the way from chapter 10 through 35, they continued to call him John Doe. And in chapter 29? That can't be right. Well, I think, maybe. Somewhere between chapter 29 and chapter 31, Taki tells Hilo that she and Andrew have found out who the John Doe is, and she identifies him, and that's incorrect. They've already known who he is. So I fixed that. I finally filled in Hilo's daughter's name throughout the story. I added a new scene to chapter 19, 20, and 25. I replaced the John Doe usage from chapter 10 onwards. Fixed the inconsistencies with that case on at least 3 occasions, 1 in chapter 29 and 2 in chapter 31, and those are the only ones that I've written down here. But those are all fixed now. At this point, the only thing that I have left to do, and I can't complete it fully until all of the chapters are written and all of the scenes are written, is my to-do list here of stuff that the characters need to do to make sure that everything is done. And I'll continue to fill that out once I finish writing the chapters and whatnot. But yeah, that's edit 3 didn't go as planned. It went much slower than planned. I had to call it quits yesterday and just put it off. I'm taking a week's rest. I'm coming back fresh with edit 4, and I'm hoping that edit 4, which is a normal copy edit, will be enough time to make the editing less of a terrible process. Because I like editing. I freelance edit. It's something that I want to pursue as at least part of my career, and I enjoy editing. That goes for other people's stuff, that goes for my stuff. So this edit really threw me for a loop, just like that rewrite edit did. And I'm hoping that once I fill out these chapters, once there are less inconsistencies, especially with the Sanders case, that things even out a little bit. But that's where we are right now. So, edit 4, like I said, is a normal edit. So I don't change the font, I don't run it through Grammarly, I don't use Google Translate to speak it out aloud to me, or any of that. I just open up Google Docs, I read through it, I fix sentence structure, weird dialogue, awkward dialogue, further inconsistencies in the plot, further redundancies in the plot, grammar, sentence structure, all of that stuff is important in the copy edit. That's what I'll be focusing on. And I'll be explaining that more in the edit 4 video, but I wanted to give you a brief overview here. So I will be beginning that edit on April 29th. That was obviously not the original plan. The initial plan was to begin this edit on April 1st, so we're a bit behind, but I do have a month of wiggle room, so I'm going to do my best to still leave that month of wiggle room, or as much of it as I possibly can, especially right now when I have no idea what's going to happen in the world, when shipping is going to go back to normal. And I've said this before in my other videos, I understand why shipping is not normal right now. But I sell paperbacks of my books too, so I need stuff like that to be normal again, to order proofs of my books and stuff like that. So I'm still using July as my month buffer zone and August 4th as my publishing date, and that's still the plan. I'm going to do my best to save as much of that buffer zone as I can, and right now I haven't gone into July, but depending on how these edits go, I most likely will, and that's fine. But I will see you guys on April 29th with stuff on Edit 4, what it is more in depth, what I'm going to be focusing on primarily, what the goal is, what the plan is, stuff like that. But that is all that I have for Edit 3's video. Hopefully I compiled it into one video. But if you enjoyed this video on Edit 3, including the talk on how difficult it was for me, a like is always appreciated. I hope it helped you with your edits in some way. If you have any questions on it, feel free to ask me down below. But otherwise, all of the links and stuff like that to my authors pages, social media, all of that's in the description down below. And if you guys are interested in keeping up on my writing, my editing, this series in particular, I upload gaming videos every Friday, roughly. Feel free to subscribe and you will be included in all of that. But that is all that I have for this particular video, and I will see you guys in a week in Edit 4. Bye for now.